Welcome to the Brigham Young University Family History Library webinar series. My name is Braden Knudsen, and thank you for joining us today. We'd like to ask you to answer a couple of our polls that we have down at the bottom of the screen as we go through some of our announcements. Our next webinar will be on Thursday, March 30th at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, and that webinar will be by James Tanner. He'll be back again for us, so we invite you to join us again on Thursday. We also have a Family Search Family Tree question and answer session coming up with Catherine Grant. That will be on Friday, April 7th, and we ask you to submit questions ahead of time. There's a link on our April webinar schedule that you can find on our website to submit questions, and that'll be good. Also, if you have any suggestions for future webinar topics, you can email us at fhl_webinars@byu.edu, and we'd love to hear your feedback. So today we'll be pleased to hear from James Tanner, who will be giving a presentation titled Start Growing Your Family Tree from Scratch. James Tanner has a bachelor's degree in Spanish and a master's degree in linguistics from the University of Utah. He received a Juris Doctorate degree in law at Arizona State University. He served for 2 years as an intelligence analyst for the U.S. Army and 39 years as an Arizona trial attorney. He has previously owned a retail computer business and an Apple Macintosh software company. James has over 35 years experience in genealogical research and is an avid blogger of Genealogy Star blog and Rejoice and Be Exceeding Glad. He served for 10 years as a missionary at the Mesa, Arizona Family Search Library and is currently serving at the BYU Family History Library. He has presented at expos and conferences around the U.S. and Canada. James has 7 children and 33 grandchildren. So as we turn the time over to James now, we will remind you that we have a comments box in the upper right-hand corner, and any questions can be submitted in the lower right-hand corner, and we'll make sure we get to all of those by the end of the webinar. We'll turn the time over to James.
Howdy, this is James Tanner. I'm glad to be here again for another BYU Family History Library webinar in our series, and to remind everyone that they can subscribe to the BYU webinar channel and BYU Family History Library webinar channel on YouTube, and all of these videos will be uploaded to YouTube and be available for watching at a future date. We're going to talk today about growing your family tree from scratch. Kind of an interesting topic, and it would seem to be directed primarily at beginning genealogists or people who are just starting out, but I'd kind of suggest that it has some application to nearly everyone. Let's go into the subject here a little bit. Let's start out with the assumption that you do not have now a family tree online. And for whatever reason, let's suppose that you just are against having the line online, you have privacy concerns, whatever else it is, or you are now just beginning to become aware of the fact that you could have a family tree online, or any other number of reasons why you have yet to do that. And the question is, these are the questions that you really need to ask yourselves if you are in that position, or if you're in the position of doubting the utility of having a family tree. First question you would ask would be, how much do I know about myself, my dates and my places? Now, this is an interesting question because what we find, what I found is talking to people over many years of doing genealogy, and even in quite a few years, more than probably 15 years of teaching classes and helping people in Family History Center and in the BYU Library, that there are a lot of people that really don't know a lot about themselves. They don't know much about their parents or anything, and they have there are some questions of things that they, in their own lives, that they're not really sure about. Secondly, how much do I know about my family? We extend that out to your close family members, siblings, parents, grandparents, people that you may have known during your lifetime or not, depending on your own particular circumstances. And then my family members, who knows the most about my family? This is an interesting question because it seems that in a lot of families, there's a person who is sort of by default becomes the family historian or the family historian, and they become the person who collects the information and the dates and the birth dates and seems to know who everybody is and how they're all related. And this is the person that, if they exist, that you might want to get to know a little better. The next question is, would I like to know more about my ancestral family? Well, if you believe all of the various kind of general surveys that have been taken over the years and reported in the news, the vast majority of people would answer yes to that question. Somehow or another, they usually try to transform that into an interest in doing genealogical research, but there's quite a gap between liking to know more about your family or having an interest in your family history and transferring that into to a pursuit of doing actual genealogical research and using historical documents and things of that nature. But that would be one of the things that you would, of course, want to know. You want to have some kind of interest in your family in order to begin the process. Now, the first thing I would suggest that anyone do, and even those who have already begun and been doing genealogy for a while, it would be helpful if you took some time to learn about family history. There is a newer website, it's been online for about 2 years now, called the Family History Guide, which has been recently adopted by Family Search as its official training partner. And this particular program starts at a point of how to use a mouse, how to turn on your computer kind of stage of being interested in genealogy, and gets into areas such as doing in research in English counties or in counties in the United States. In other words, it goes from very, very simple topics up to those that would be more challenging and require some considerable effort. So it's quite a broad site. It has more than 2,000 links out to resources in the form of written articles and videos and other kinds of helps that can teach all about genealogy and how to do it. So this is the first suggestion that I would have in how to build a family tree, is get an idea of how the whole thing works, how a program like Family Search, which is the Family Search Family Tree, which is a free program and open to anyone who wants to register for free, can use, or you can start with a subscription program that might cost a few $100s a year to maintain a subscription. So there's a lot of choices out there, and it's a good idea to get a background and perhaps a little bit of a perspective on the different choices before you start sinking money into the subject. This is one area where you actually can get into doing research and being involved in family history at quite an extensive level before it would be necessary to actually have any kind of a cash outlay for equipment. Now, let me contrast this with some of the other things that you might be, activities that people might be involved in. For instance, one of the most popular pastimes for older Americans, particularly older male Americans and some older female Americans, is playing golf. Golf is one type of activity where not only are you going to have an expense immediately, but you're going to, if you get interested in it, then you are going to be spending a significant amount of money on the sport or activity. So we contrast that to doing something like family history, which can be done primarily with a computer. And since we know that the vast majority now of people in the United States have access to or have computers in their home, we know that there's not any kind of outlay that you have to do to get started. So this is a kind of an important factor in learning about family history. This is the Family History Guide, and the address online is thefhguide.com. So I would suggest that's a good place to get started and get introduction. First thing you understand is this program is free. It's structured, which means that it works systematically through all of the subjects in a way that you can see exactly where you are and what you need to learn. You can jump in at any level because it's also sequenced. So if you know something, you can skip over it, and if you want to learn a specific subject, you can go either directly to that subject, or you can work your way through to that subject by following the sequenced instruction that's there on the program. It's been called the best-in-class learning environment, and it is really a place where you can get started learning a lot about family history. Once again, the FH Guide. It's also, as I mentioned, the official Family Search training partner. It's linked from LDS.org, which is the official website of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the sponsor of Family Search. To get started, you click on the introduction button, which is a big black button on the startup page, and you'll get right into the program and take a quick tour or begin linking down to a number of different subjects. The structure is that the overall structure of the program is that there are projects, which are sort of general things that you might want to know about family history and genealogy. And then within each project, there are specific goals, and these goals are more specific skills or knowledge centers that you need to master. And then each goal is supported by different choices, and these would be the actual activities that someone would be involved in. So as each of these choices come up, what you'll see here is if you are a teacher in the United States and have been active in the last 10 or 15 years, you will recognize this as being structured exactly like most of the school systems in the country. The school teachers today are required to have ultimate goals for a semester, for the year that they're teaching, and they break that down into learning subjects and daily experiences that the children have to work towards those learning goals. In many school systems today, also, there's a standardized test that's taken at the end. Now, the nice thing about genealogy is nobody's going to give you a standardized test, so you don't have to worry about passing or getting a grade. It's just an activity in learning and helping you to become more proficient in doing genealogy. Now, if you're going to decide that you want to get online and start working, you're going to have a lot of different choices. Here are some of the major online family tree programs. And what I mean by that is these are programs that host family trees. Sometimes they host a single family tree, and that's what a unified family tree where everybody kind of cooperatively and jointly builds a big family tree. And in other programs, each individual has their own space on the website for their own family tree, and depending on the program, other people either have more or less access to seeing what's on your own family tree. Most of the programs, you can make your family tree just about as private as you want. Although this is an interesting problem here. We have a subject, which is family history, which is intended to encompass a large number of relatives, of potential family members who are out there. And yet there are people who want to make their tree private, which means that nobody could see that. That's kind of interesting because basically what you end up doing when you make your own family tree private and try to work on it yourself personally is you end up redoing and repeating work and research that may have been done one, more, or many hundreds of times even in the past by other people who share with you the same ancestors. As these programs go, Family Search is a free program, and it is a unified family tree, which means that everyone who is participating can look at, modify, change, or participate in a family tree. And this sometimes makes people a little bit uneasy at first, and because it's not a very familiar way of working, particularly for doing genealogical research. But the benefits far outweigh the risks, if you want to look at it that way, of working with in a unified environment. The second one here is Genie. It is also free. It has a free component. There is a portion of Genie that can have is fee-based and can work on a subscription. And Genie, by the way, is owned by MyHeritage, so it's a product that is now MyHeritage program, and shares some of the features and some of the concepts of the MyHeritage program now. We have WikiTree, which is similar to the Family Search Family Tree in some aspects. It's a non-sponsored program. It's its own company. It is also free. These programs that are free are usually sustained either by advertising, or they're sustained by a sponsor, or in some cases they have a fee component. So you have to kind of watch. Free sometimes does not necessarily mean free, completely free in every aspect. Now, I can assure you that Family Search is free. There is no fee component associated at all with Family Search. Now we have MyHeritage, which is a subscription program. MyHeritage is basically an international company. It's based out of Tel Aviv, out of a town near Tel Aviv, Israel. It has 85 million members plus, and no, you didn't hear that wrong. There are more than 85 million people on this family tree. That very fact alone makes it an attractive place to host a family tree, because you have the ability to connect with and collaborate with people all around the world that you may be related to. It's quite an interesting website. We have other by the way, most of our videos that have been uploaded to the BYU Family History Library YouTube channel, we do talk about some of these larger websites. I had a series of 4 videos online talking about Family Search, MyHeritage, Find My Past, and Ancestry. We probably should add the other ones at some future date, and we probably will do that. Next, we have Find My Past. Find My Past is a company that is based in England and Scotland, and they have they are very large in the British United Kingdom and British Empire countries, former British Empire countries, and it's a very interesting program. They have it's relatively recently that they incorporated a family tree program, but they these programs, these 4 programs that we mention up here at the top of the screen, Family Search, MyHeritage, Ancestry, and Find My Past, have some very important features, and the main feature of all 4 of these programs is that they provide you with record hints. In other words, the programs look at what you put into a family tree, and then they go out and go through their own individual database of index documents and suggest records that may apply to individuals in your family tree. And in a sense, real sense, they can help you grow your family tree and find ancestors that you may not have otherwise found at a fairly interestingly fast rate, at least through the first couple of 100 years of history. So as long as you're going back the first couple of 100 years, back into the early 1800s, you probably would be benefit greatly by having your family tree on 1 or more of these programs. The next one here is Ancestry, which has been around the longest of the family tree, online family tree programs, and arguably at least claims to be the largest online family tree, although their membership does not come anywhere close as the numbers of people that are on MyHeritage. But they do have a vast library or online reference collections of documents that are very, very helpful. The ones that have the dollar signs are subscription programs. That's an annual subscription cost, and that is a factor that you have to take into consideration when you begin to work with these programs. The next one is Jennynet. Now, Jennynet is a French program from France, and they are very quickly becoming an international database for information around the world. They have some very unusual collections of books and documents that can be searched that are not available in any of the other programs, and it's one that should be looked at carefully. They have a free component. Most of these programs also offer a free trials subscription, and if you subscribe for a period of time, in the case of MyHeritage, for example, you can put your family tree on MyHeritage up to a certain number, up to 250 individuals, and keep it there. But you will not be given the advantage of having the automatic record hints or some of the data access things that are available on MyHeritage. So there's kind of levels in all of these things, and it would bear. Now there's an important factor here. Family Search maintains around the world almost 5,000 family history centers. These are locations where there are computers where people can come and receive research assistance. If you go to Family Search and get to the Get Help menu, which is on the front startup page up in the upper right, way up in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see a number of choices, and one is to, some of those choices are to get personal assistance. And if you do that, you'll find a search for a family history center near you. It is not unusual to find one in your city or close to you in some way. And I would suggest that that's important for this reason, is that these programs, many of these programs, are free if they're used in a family history center. Now, that means you can access them and look at their databases and do searches, but usually the free versions do not include the opportunity to host a family tree on their program. For instance, Ancestry is also free in many libraries. They have a library edition of their program, and many of the public libraries have free copies of Ancestry. So if you're interested in these programs, you can sometimes, if you have access to either a family history center or a library that has the library editions of either Ancestry or MyHeritage, then you can get online from any networked computer, anything that has access to the internet, and look at these programs. And as I mentioned, Family Search is available on any device. You can look at it on your phone, you can work on it on an iPad or anything that has. Now, each of these programs also, a lot of these programs, not all of the programs up there, but some of the programs like Ancestry and MyHeritage and Family Search also have mobile apps that are specifically designed for mobile devices, such as tablets and smartphones. And so you might want to look at the programs from the standpoint of being able to use them on a mobile device. So those are some of the considerations of getting started of wherever they want. Now, this is by no means even begins to open the door, if you want to call it that, to how many different programs and opportunities there are out there. There are lots of other opportunities online to get involved with genealogy, and you'll find that the more you look, the more you find. Most of us, like I do, have spent years looking online and are acquainted with a lot of the resources, but I can certainly tell you that I see new programs, new websites, and things of interest to genealogy very, very regularly. And there's always seems to be something new out there that I've never heard of before. moving on from that, I want to know what the decision points are. Well, the first decision point is the one I mentioned, and that is that some of these programs provide advanced record hints to help build your tree. I can't uh, even begin to tell you how valuable this is. These record hints are in a sense overwhelmingly amazing in a case. Uh, Even for someone who has been doing genealogy now for almost 35 years, I am still amazed at how quickly I can find additional information about family members using the record hints in these programs. And yes, I do have family tree on every one of these programs, actually, every one of them that I mentioned. And the first question people usually ask when I say something like that is, well, how do you keep them all synchronized between all the work you're doing? And I'm saying, I don't even try. There's no way to do that practically, but I find that I do benefit from having their advanced search features uh, to be used in conjunction uh, with doing research on all of the different programs at different times. Uh, Another one that's important that's being developed in these programs is error detection. For example, MyHeritage came out recently with their tree consistency checker, and basically it uses 30 to 36 different criteria to examine your family tree and essentially tell you what's wrong with it, what kinds of things you've done wrong, like add a child born before the mother and father were married, or born, I mean, not married, but born, and ones that are born after the parents die and things like that. But not just simple mathematical kinds of things like that, but some very, very sophisticated ways of looking at your family tree to tell you whether or not the information is consistent and makes any sense in a genealogical way. And so you might want to look at that as a factor. The next is that most of these programs promote standardized entries. They'll have a way of entering everything in the program in a consistent fashion. This may not seem to be important when you start out in genealogy, but it becomes more and more important as you go on and develop a larger collection of relatives in a family tree. And the standardized part of it can become a little bit frustrating for people, but in the end, it makes for a more accurate and consistent looking family tree, primarily looking at entries that can be compared because the entries are all put into the computer program in the same fashion. Sometimes we find that we begin to get ownership of our research. We start thinking of it as my family tree and my relatives. Well, that kind of makes us forget that we really are related to a lot of different people, and we even may not even know or have identified these people, and yet they have just as equal a claim on your ancestors as you do, because they're their ancestors. And you might want to look at these family trees as from the standpoint of whether or not they support a cooperative, collaborative entries. Now, the basic benefit of having a collaborative family tree is that you can avoid duplication of effort, duplication of research. It is really kind of disconcerting to spend hours and hours looking for some what you would consider to be obscure ancestor, only to find out that someone else has already found that person and documented the person extensively in some online family tree. So this is a real issue of saving time and making you focus more on the people that are harder to find, and more research is needed. Okay, let's say, for example, I was going to compare the two programs, and I chose two of the popular programs with big online family tree and a lot of users. And I don't know that it's really fair to make a comparison between the programs. I'm not trying to say one's better than the other and from the standpoint of how I'm going to do my genealogical research, but just for the idea of going through some of the features of these programs that you might consider when you are determining whether you want to have that, use Family Search or use Ancestry. You can do the same process with any of the other programs. Okay, first of all, Family Search Family Tree is collaborative. There is one family tree. Everyone is looking at the same family tree, and whether you want to collaborate or not, you are actually in a collaborative environment where you're looking at your great-grandfather and everybody else who has the same great-grandfather can look at it in real time at the same time you are. Any changes you make are visible to anyone else in the program. Any changes they make will be visible to you. And that's collaborative in the extreme sense. We're not just looking at that. It's universal. There is only one family tree, and it is intended to provide a unique spot for every individual who has ever lived on the face of the earth. Now, that may seem to be a rather unattainable goal, but there's already over 1 billion people in the family tree. Family Search family tree, and so it's not to the fact that we could discover people. Obviously, there's lots of people who lived on the earth of which we have no written records or any knowledge of. But for those who have records, it is something that is achievable and obtainable, and it's possible that at some point in time, in the not too distant future, that the family tree will have basically comprehended most of the human history. Record hints, substantial record hints on most of the people in the family tree. The record hints presently are targeted mostly at English-speaking countries, but as time goes on, additional record hints will come out for other countries. You can search directly from Family Search into their billions of records that are online. You can click, actually there are links to click to other websites, but you have to have subscriptions to those other websites in order to take advantage of the links. But you can search click on an individual without typing anything more into a search engine and have it search through all of Family Search's records that are indexed. There are dozens of partner apps out there. They have what is called an app gallery that is associated with the FamilySearch.org website. And the app gallery presently has well over 100 apps or programs that either run with Family Search or somehow attached to the program or use the data to add additional features. So there's quite a large number of those extra programs out there. And as I mentioned previously, it is free, and there is no premium edition, which will cost more, and there's no add this feature if you want to pay a subscription fee or whatever. Now let's look at Ancestry. The trees on Ancestry are individually controlled. Each individual has their own family tree and controls that family tree and the access. Your family tree on Ancestry can be made private, which I have already said I have no idea why you would do that if you're doing genealogy, because it just guarantees that you're going to do work that other people have already done. And secondly, it has an elaborate system of record hints called shaky green leaves that show up on your family tree. Yeah, they're little tiny green leaves that shake when they have a hint. Then you can also search directly from your person into whatever person you have in your family tree into the Ancestry databases collections, and their vast records, collections of billions of records. It's completely indexed. All of the records on Ancestry are indexed and searchable from the database. The contrast here, by the way, with Family Search is Family Search has billions of records, billions with a B, billions of records. but only a percentage of those records, an increasing percentage granted, are indexed. And so sometimes there are, comparatively, when we're comparing accessible records that have been indexed, meaning you can search them for names and dates and places and things like that, there's a discrepancy between the total number of records on Family Search and those that are indexed. On Ancestry, all of the records are indexed. It is a subscription website. You have to pay an annual or monthly payment in order to gain access. If you stop paying, your family tree will not go away, but it'll be frozen, and you'll have you can look at it, but you can't make any changes or do any work with it. So there is a kind of an ongoing incentive to keep paying the subscription. Now, what if you decided, excuse me, what if you decided that you wanted to have your own program on your own computer? Okay, well, the first consideration from my standpoint is that, once again, by having your own program, you are foregoing the benefit of having, of knowing what everyone else has already done with your genealogy. So instead of tapping into a great pool of related people who may have done, may or may not have done a lot of work on your family lines, you are required, you will end up doing most of that work by yourself over again, and you'll find out as you get into online family trees that perhaps many other people have already done research on your various and sundry ancestors. Most people are quite surprised to find out how many relatives they really do have out there in the world, even if they've come from families where they were where they had little knowledge of their parents. It turns out as you get back into doing family history that you're related. Now, the reason why this is true has got nothing to do at all with the social aspects of being online. This has to do with pure mathematics. You have two parents and four grandparents, and we're talking strictly biological here. 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024. See, as you go back in generations, the number increases exponentially. So you don't have to do too much research. Now, what happens if you can't find any records on your family? That does happen, by the way. Happens quite frequently that we run out of records. People do come from places in the world where records about families are not, have not either been traditionally kept or are very inaccessible, and they have a proportionally greater challenge in building their family trees. Now, but we are going to talk here briefly about the programs that are computer programs that are available. And again, this is not even a very large percentage of the numbers of actual genealogical programs that are available that could be used. This is kind of a sample of the ones that are some of the most popular out there in the world. First of all, you have a program called Roots Magic. These are fee-based programs, by the way, for the most part. There are some exceptions. And the cost on these programs can run, all of these programs, by the way, run somewhere under or only slightly more than $100. That fee is for the initial program. Now, this is not a subscription cost, so you're not subscribing to the program, but you need to be aware of the reality of owning computer programs, and that is that they are periodically upgraded. And because they're upgraded, you're going to eventually, if you want to keep using the program and using your computer, be in the cycle of upgrades on the computer, either upgrading your hardware, buying new computers periodically, or upgrading software as time goes on. New versions of the operating systems, Macintosh, Apple operating system is regularly updated at least once a year or so, and Windows is likewise upgraded regularly. As these programs get upgraded, as the operating system programs and the computer hardware, the actual machines are upgraded and improved, then these programs are also upgraded. So you may have a beginning price which seems relatively inexpensive, but you have to remember that after a year or two, you may be paying another price to get an upgrade. Some of the users become what I would call a little bit irate when they find out that they have to upgrade process, but going into it, you're actually buying into that world when you start the world of computers. I've always found it interesting over the years that people are not highly frustrated and mad at the world because they have to buy a new car, but they seem to be upset when they have to buy a new computer. And they're just completely two different. Well, they're similar in some ways, but they're vastly different in other ways. And one is that technology in cars is not changing nearly as fast as the technology in computers. Okay, so Roots Magic is one of the basic programs that's out there, very popular program. One of its close competitors and a very popular program is called Ancestral Quest. Now, if you're one of the literally millions of people who downloaded and used a program called Personal Ancestral File uh, back a few years in the past. It's actually been was brought out by Family Search, actually from the church itself, from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and was very popular and literally had a million users out there. But it has not been updated or maintained for now going on over 15 years. It's going on like almost close to 20 years since the program was functional. So Ancestral Quest, by the way, preserves that old PAF interface. So if you're familiar with Personal Ancestral File, you'll probably like Ancestral Quest, and you'll find out that your old PAF files work reasonably well in Ancestral Quest because they are compatible. Some of the other programs out there, Legacy Family Tree from Millennia Corporation, very popular program out there, has a wide and very extensive support system. They also sponsor tours and cruises and things like that. Quite an interesting company. There's also Heredis or Heredis or wherever you happen to be from. It's a French company used very, very popular in Europe, very extensive. It's available on all operating system platforms, Mac, iOS, um, Android, on Windows, and on Mac OS operating systems, all of the Apple iOS operating systems, all of those. So if you buy the program, then you can run it on all your devices, and that helps you to share information and use the program more extensively. It's also a very fully featured program. Reunion is another program that has been around for a long period of time, relatively speaking, in computer world. Primarily, it runs on Macintosh computers, on Apple's Mac computers. Very interesting program and widely used by Apple owners. Finally, Tree Builder is a program from MyHeritage, and as contrast to all of these other programs, it is free. It is a fully developed program. Now, there's going to be a trade-off here. First of all, the program does synchronize with your online MyHeritage family tree, so there's some incentive there to pay the subscription price and be part of MyHeritage, but that is not a prerequisite for downloading and using this free program. And by the way, it comes out very highly rated from those who review software for genealogy software. The last one is Family Tree Maker. It's had an interesting history. It is presently sold by a company called Mac Kiev, K-I-E-V, just like in the Ukraine. And it is a fully featured program. It was originally owned and developed by Ancestry.com. Ancestry divested itself of the program a little over a year ago, It was picked up and purchased and licensed by Mac Kiev, and now it's being released in new upgraded versions of the program. So it's a new program that's out there. The older versions of Family Tree Maker are no longer being supported or maintained by Ancestry. So this is an alternative way of upgrading your program into and using the same program if you wish to do so. So here's the ones some of the basic ones, and as I mentioned, there are many, many more of these out there. There's a lot of free online programs. There's open source is another type of program that's used on computers, and they're on the computer networks, and there are online programs, and there are desktop programs, and there's all sorts of places that you can look. If you want to get a feel for what the community thinks about the programs, then if you've bought anything online, like from Amazon, or if you've download movies from Netflix or anything like that, you know that there's a star system out there. 5 stars says you love the thing. 1 star says you think there's problems, that you really don't like it at all. There is a 5-star rating system for genealogy programs, and the website is called GenSoftReviews.com. GenSoft Reviews, REVIEWS.com, GenSoft Reviews, and it has hundreds and hundreds of reviews of hundreds of genealogy programs. So it gives you an insight into what the world thinks about these programs, and it's a real active, viable review site. And new programs as they come out get reviewed rather quickly, depending on how much they sell and how many people are on those programs. And once again, I mention as we leave the subject of local programs is don't forget upgrade costs. The cost of the program is only the beginning of your life of soaking money into a computer. And if you really want to get, I'm not trying to get any sympathy here, but if you really want to get into the world of maintaining programs, you can get into the real expensive programs. I'm not going to drop any names, but there are a series of programs out there, particularly for graphics, that basically cost into the hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Even one upgrade for a program, I will mention it. Adobe Photoshop, for example, very popular graphic program. Upgrade on Adobe Photoshop, depending on whether you're a student or whatever, can cost anywhere up to and more than $800 a year just to maintain the program. So, don't feel badly used by genealogy. Most of their programs, the upgrade costs are substantially less than some of the other big commercial programs out there. Now, here's some basic rules that we want to follow as we get started into genealogy. First of all, when we begin, it's hard to think about this because we think that we know a lot of this information. We know when we were born. We know when our parents are born, maybe. We know some basic ideas about where and when and how our family developed. But a very, very important factor about starting out with genealogy is to work from original source records and cite your sources. What that means is find a record out there, a historical record, whether it's birth record, a death record, a marriage record, census, there's thousands and thousands of different kinds of records out there. Find a record. When you find the record, extract the information, look at it, think about it, evaluate the record, make sure that it's your person, make sure that it's your information, extract the information, add that to your family tree, add the people you find to your family tree, and then tell the rest of us where you got that information. That's what we mean by citing our sources. We need to know how you came to the conclusions that you did, that you really, really were related to the certain king of royalty in Europe or to a certain president of the United States or whatever. We would like to see the chain of records that supports that particular conclusion that you've made. This is for online family trees. This is probably the greatest thing that is lacking in in what people put online is putting in supporting source records so that we can see how they actually thought they were related to this person. And I would also encourage you not to avoid copying other unsourced family trees. Now, this goes for books too, by the way. Many of us in the United States and in Europe also uh, find ourselves heir to a rather extensive what we call a surname book. A book that is written about either the descendants of a prominent ancestor who was prominent for the reason that he had descendants, or maybe some other reason, but also may show ancestry. In other words, may take an individual and show all their whole research into their family tree. Whether it's that way or not, the reliability of the information there is based on how much documentation is provided. If someone says that great-great-grandfather was born in England in 1780 or 1910, I mean, whatever date there should be a corresponding record to that date showing where that date came from, that it wasn't just something that was made up or switched around so that you say, oh, by the way, this looks like this person cannot be the father because he was born after the child was born. Well, if we change the date of the father back earlier, which of course we can do because no one knows what we're doing here, then we can obviously make that conflict go away. Well, unfortunately, that's been done a number of times or similar things over the years, and online family trees have gained kind of a bad reputation for reliability, but they can become extremely reliable if they have substantial sources documenting each of the facts or assertions that are made. And in this, you think quality, not quantity. It's better to have a really solid, documented family tree that has a limited number of people to one that has gathered thousands and tens of thousands of individuals without any basis or knowledge of if there's any real relationship there. In the last couple of weeks, I've examined probably half a dozen family trees, and in every single case, in fact, I can not cite one case in my experience when I have not found that there are additional individuals past the point where there is any support or documentation for an individual. So we all have a tendency to have people in our family tree that are undocumented and are simply there because we've copied them from someone else. So the idea here is to build a solid, evaluated structure on which you can make your assumptions about your relationships and the people that you are, who you are because of because you have done some good research on it. Let me give an example here, and I'm going to use FamilySearch.org's family tree because A, it's free and it's easily accessible. So if you're seeing an example from Family Tree, you can go out and look at it yourself if you wish to do so, because the information here is available and open to everyone to see. So it's kind of a good thing for examples here. First of all, you would register for a free account. Then you would start with what's called the My Family booklet. There's a little booklet available to get started, and it will let you guide you through the process of adding in information about the first 4 generations of your family tree. So here's the FamilySearch.org website. So you can get that book, the My Family book, available or online or on paper, and by clicking on that. So here's the My Family booklet. This is the online version. You can add in a photo, and you can give some basic information about you and your family, yourself, your parents, your grandparents. And once you do this, then what you fill in can be added directly online to your portion of the family tree. So you can work through this and get a start. You can add information directly to the family tree. Each individual will have parents available to add a husband and a wife. One of the questions that comes up frequently is, what are we talking about here? Biological? What if we're adopted? What if we had guardianship? What if we're a foster child? All of those different um, relationships can be shown in the family search family tree, as they usually can be shown in almost all of the other genealogy programs out there. From there, you can add a lot of detail. Here's an example of my grandfather. By the way, the people we see in the family tree are deceased. Living people are not visible, and that is the case in all of those other programs. You can mark living people as unavailable for view. In addition, we can add photos and documents and stories and audio files about our ancestors and attach those to our ancestors. And like in Facebook and other programs, you can tag those documents to the individual. So this is called tagging, where you can attach those individuals directly. And if you click over a person or hover over a person with your cursor and looking at the photos, then that person will be highlighted. There's the name and also the information for that person in the file will be highlighted, and the link to where that person is in the family tree. And all this can be added for free and maintained. Many people have decided, in fact, millions and millions of records have been added to family search family tree and photographs because they realize that these documents will be preserved by family search in perpetuity. There's not any chance at all that family search is going to stop keeping these records. You can continue to add people and grow your family as you go along, and the program will assist you with record hints. So you remember, add the information you find in records and documents. Don't just start making stuff up and putting in new names because you wish you were related to someone on the Mayflower or to some of the kings of Europe or whatever. And be sure to record or cite where you found your information, a source, we call that adding sources. And carefully add as much information as you can find, so everything you find is relevant. And I would suggest that you add as much as you possibly can. There are places for notes and discussion and life histories, and you can add in entire biographies through the memories and attached documents and text files and everything else to the people. And try to be as correct as possible. Review what you've done periodically and to see if it makes sense. There are programs and apps out there to act with family search that will check the data. There's a program out there called Find a Record, all one word, findarecord.com, and Find a Record will tell you all the problems you have with your family search family tree. So example of a source, here's a source record that you might find. In this case, we're looking at Utah pioneers and prominent men of Utah as a record source where some information was found about one of my ancestors. And sources do not need to be complicated, but they do need to identify where the record can be found. In this case, there's a link to a record and also a title to the record. If you have your information in the family tree, others can add what you want, what they know. So because it is by its nature collaborative, they can continue to add information. Some people look at this as being an intrusion, but in actuality, it's a great benefit because you do get to see what other people may think about the people in the family tree. So use the historical record collections to add people with sources, and there are more records in the FamilySearch.org catalog. Many of these are still waiting to be digitized and indexed, but they're available through family history centers in the form of microfilm copied or microfiche copies. And then I suggest you go back and learn some more as you're going along. You'll find out that you have a lot of questions, you need help. There are classes, our online videos on the BYU Family History Library YouTube channel. There are lots of other places online with webinars and recordings and videos that help you to learn more about your genealogical past. And so the key here is to keep looking, keep persistently going after it. You can spend as much or as little time as you want, but I can tell you that as you spend consistent time, that you'll see progress in finding. And if you do get to a position where you lack, where you just simply cannot figure out what to do next, I would suggest visiting a family history library or family history center where you can obtain personal one-on-one experience help. Keep looking, keep learning, and thank you very much for watching with here today. Remember, these videos are being recorded and uploaded to the BYU Family History Library YouTube channel, and remember to subscribe so you can learn about all our wonderful videos.
Okay, thank you very much, James. We do have one question before you real fast.
Okay.
Ron Smalling, he asked, how do you get to the standardized tree amongst relatives?
Now, when you say the standardized tree, what we meant by standardization was that the program itself will require you to put in dates and names and places in a specific format. All of the trees are in a sense standardized because they do, but the places are the focus of most of the standardization out there. And a standardized place, for example, you might say, like I could say, I lived in Phoenix, Arizona. A genealogist would say, Phoenix, Arizona is not a standard place. The place would be Phoenix, Maricopa, which is the county, comma, Phoenix, comma, Maricopa, comma, Arizona, comma, United States. That would be a standardized entry. So depending on the program, they may or may not require that kind of extensive amount of information, but some of them are standardized, and Family Tree is one that's very much in standardized. And in fact, they come up and tell you if your places and your dates are not standardized. They send you little notices all the time on your people to tell you that you don't have the right standard. So there's some real advantages to that in the long run because you get consistency and everyone can see where these places are. So that's what we mean by a standardized tree.
Okay, well, thank you very much. The other question that we did receive, I did have a chance to answer already, but I'll just mention it again. Ron asked again, as an LDS genealogy consultant, is their family search tree training available online? And we do have a lot of videos online on our YouTube channel that cover family search, and we also have a Temple and Family History Consultant training page on our website. I put a link in the description there that you can go to, and you can find a list of our webinars, a list of all the YouTube videos, and you can get into that training page as well. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. If there are any more questions, feel free to write those in now. I want to make sure they get answered. If you didn't get a chance to answer our polls at the bottom, feel free to do so now. And we also have a place for feedback, so you can let us know how we're doing. If there's anything that we can improve, please let us know. And if you have any suggestions for future topics, feel free to write those in there as well. As James mentioned, this webinar has been recorded and we'll post it online so you can watch it again later. And we hope to see you on Thursday. Thanks for joining us.